Today we welcome the testimony of Gary Gensler, Chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm asking a specific question. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law.
I'm asking you a very simple question about the second largest digital asset.
Congress has said that there's one agency, the Securities and Exchange Commission, under this committee.
And you won't answer my question, and you're the head of that agency.
What about Ethereum? Is Ethereum now a security?
We had this
I heard your exchange. They've been in place since 2015. You say in your statements that there's clarity in the market and the rules are clear. Just come on in. You can't even answer the question.
Did you, the SEC, perform any of that cost-benefit analysis internally?
So the SEC looked at, I think, over 6,000 public registration
So that's a yes?
statements.
I would like to see those documents provided immediately. Are you willing to do that then?
I'm a firm believer in congressional oversight. I know that I'm not.
Sounds like we now have an understanding that you're going to actually send us your analysis.
So I know that this.
Yes or no?
Well, I know that our staffs are working with.
We have a minute. Yes or no?
And I believe in congressional oversight, and I know
Okay,
the staffs
all right,
are working.
moving on.
You've shortcut a lot of the Administrative Procedures Act. It appears that what you're wanting to do is hurry things along before Congress can have its due oversight.
And you as an agency have chosen to stonewall, obfuscate, and not do your job.
There's a lack of clarity here in the marketplace. Can you at least agree to that?
I think that the clarity is there. The law is clear.
All right.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. What an absolute circus this has been. If you didn't see that video, that was over on my Twitter. If you're not following me, it's at the Crypto Zombie. Sometimes I tweet over there if I can't make videos, but guys, it's getting crazy. And look at this chart. It is just consolidating. Now, obviously, everybody's waiting for the big FOMC. There's a good chance by the time you're watching this video, it's already happened. I don't think there's really any surprises. I'm not even going to talk about it in this video because there is something actually in the Bitcoin chart that is a little bit worrisome that we do need to talk about. It is a very, very critical indicator, signal, whatever you want to call it, that we've talked about for a very long time. And unfortunately, it's doing what we don't want it to do right now. Now, it could be because of the SEC and the uncertainty and everything that's going on. I do want to talk about everything that's happened with the Hinman emails, Warren Davidson's SEC Stabilization Act, and also Gary Gensler caught yet again in another lie. I'm not kidding, guys. So it's a lot of uncertainty here in the US, and that's what you're seeing. So I'm going to discuss what is really actually happening here in the US specifically. And there is something very scary for USA, and it doesn't even have anything to do with Bitcoin. I'll give you a hint. It actually has to do with China. So if you want to hear about all that, make sure you stick around to the very end of this video. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed. And without further ado, let's dive in and have a look at the charts. Now, this is very, very worrisome right here. You could see that Bitcoin did close below this 200 weekly. And if we zoom in right here, the 200 weekly actually acted as resistance thus far. You can see we actually pumped up to that level and we are starting to pull back down again. So you really don't want to see the pretty much most important support band of Bitcoin's history acting as resistance, okay? Because we had it as multiple times support here. Even when we fell below it, it still closed back above it during COVID. And you can see right here, we have been struggling to get back above this ever since we had this major dump around June 13th of last year. So basically, we've been struggling for about a year. And at the same time, you can see right here, we are inside of the EMA ribbon. And I'm afraid that we're going to start seeing this yellow EMA start flipping to the downside, right? We wanted to at least stay above the 89, but we obviously can't seem to stay above it because that's around $27,400. So Bitcoin really doesn't want to stay below $26,500 for too long, because then what we're getting is a rejection like we got right back here. And would that end up being a retest down on the 300? The 300 is sitting at around $20,000. Now, is it possible for us to go back down to those levels? Again, I don't know. A lot of things are going to depend on what, is kind of going on with this regulation. I think a lot of people are afraid to touch crypto right now. But again, looking at what happened back here on the daily with the guppy, same thing right here moving into the blue. And we're also seeing some similarities again down here with these other indicators, right? And what happened was once we flipped back into that blue, we basically went down and down and down and down. I don't have to tell you what happened, right? So that is a little bit concerning. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Could it have something to do with what's going on right now with the regulatory environment? It could be, because if you have a look at the S&P is actually broken out of its channel, and it's actually, so far on the weekly, I mean, anything could change, but it's actually putting in a higher high based on this previous level. So you have, the NASDAQ, the S&P, you have stocks rallying, and you have Bitcoin going pretty much nowhere, not doing anything, actually slowly bleeding downwards, right? Obviously, this lack of correlation, again, is because of what is going on right now. But again, the fear of losing these levels risks Bitcoin coming all the way back down to the bottom of this channel, which I don't want to even talk about some of these levels. We're hoping that we're going to get held above the 21,500. But, we did touch the level that we were talking about, 25.3. I had expected that regardless of the news. I thought that was going to happen anyway. But ultimately, what you want to do is maintain this upward sloping trend. So really, I know this sounds like crazy, the thought of Bitcoin going back down to these levels. It sucks that we lost the 200 weekly, but really, according to this, as long as we stay above this major pivot that we had all the way back here, and we had right here, and it's not really a pivot, it's previous resistance flipping support, but it did act as resistance right here. But once we got above it, we flew above it, right? So I don't want to fall below $18,800. And not financial advice. If we do go down there, it may be a good opportunity to scoop up some Bitcoin. If you guys do want to learn how to trade, though, make sure you guys check out the tutorial popping up above. Lots of free bonuses below, all different options, decentralized, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, don't trade outside of your jurisdiction. You guys know the drill. But nevertheless, guys, like Gabriel Haynes says, the people are tired and they're pushing back.
Good morning! I am here in front of the White House protesting on behalf of crypto bros around the nation. Biden and other politicians have called crypto bros a parasite, degenerates, elites on society. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Crypto bros are the lifeblood of this great nation. They represent innovation. They represent bravery. And they're not going anywhere. So I'm calling on Biden to stop shaking hands with ghosts and to appreciate the greatness that crypto brings to this land. Embrace cryptocurrency and see America become great. Dismiss cryptocurrency and see the United States go to damn zero. The choice is yours, Biden. I know where I stand. Send my bags 100x. Let's go.
All right, we're just having some fun, but as you can see, Warren Davidson, he came out, and you guys saw, if you're following me, the YouTube shorts, I told you what he just did with the Stabilization Act, and now he's sticking up for Damus, which is going to be removed from the Apple Store. Obviously, they're pushing back over Bitcoin Lightning. Again, where is this coming from? I don't know. But he says permissionless peer-to-peer payments are essential to defending freedom. Anyone opposed to self-custody is telling you that they do not trust you with your own assets. Instead, they want a third party as an intermediary who can be monitored and controlled. So we are definitely seeing people push back. In fact, we have the Hinman emails, which if you're an XRP hodler, I'm sure you've been very, very focused on this lately. They say it unmasks the SEC, showing an agency more concerned about its own turf than protecting investors. They also show a high-ranking official ignoring explicit internal warnings that he was not following the law, okay? And ultimately, they show that the SEC had at least silently agreed to Hinman's speech, but did not take any follow-up action. According to Coinbase CLO, the regulatory gap, proof from the Hinman emails of what we've been saying to the Third Circuit to Congress, is that the securities laws are incomplete when it comes to digital assets. Security laws aren't meant to rule over all digital assets, and that many digital assets are not securities. Binance, this is actually some good news, was able to celebrate at least a partial success. And this is what I'm saying. So I know it's been a lot of doom and gloom, but there are people that are being vocal, and you need to be vocal too. Reach out to, your local, congressman or whatever. You have to speak up. So many people are afraid to speak up, but what do they say? The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And if you really just think about, this is going to sound kind of like very patriotic, whatever, but like our founding fathers of the U.S. alone, we didn't get where we were by just, taking it on the cheek and just, rolling over in the mud. No, you have to stand up for what you believe in and what you feel is right. And that's what's going on right now. These people are pushing back against Gensler. What he's doing is absolutely ridiculous. And so, yeah, the federal judge overseeing the SEC's case against Binance said that the SEC cannot shut down Binance and rejected the restraining order to freeze the assets of the U.S. trading platform. So that's pretty good, right? They said that there was absolutely no need for a restraining order and ruled that the two sides must sit down and find a compromise. So that's good. And also the U.S. House of Committee Financial Service, they had a hearing yesterday, and Tom Emmer revealed that Gary Gensler told Congress last year that he needed legislation to regulate the digital asset, but this year he says he does not. So like Bruce Fenton said, the SEC, we will review every website, post, tweet, chat room, discussion, media appearance, advertising, DM, letter, and note by all crypto companies, the public. How about this statement on your website where a senior SEC director said ETH isn't a security? The SEC, no. That doesn't count, right? But look at this. So all Republicans on the House Financial Service Committee today sent a letter to the SEC demanding it rescind its proposed rulemaking regarding the definition of an exchange, saying it exceeds the agent's statutory authority. And if you don't believe it, again, look at what Gary Gensler was saying back in 2021. He basically admits that they don't have the jurisdiction.
I do think that working with Congress, and I think it's only Congress that could really address it, it'd be good to consider, if you would ask my thoughts, to consider whether to bring greater investor protection to the crypto exchanges. And I think if that were to be the case, because right now the exchanges trading in these crypto assets do not have a regulatory framework either at the SEC or our sister agency, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, that could instill greater confidence. Right now, there's not a market regulator around these crypto exchanges, and thus there's really not protection against fraud or manipulation or a conflict fee.
Sorry about the poor quality of that clip, but as you guys could see, the SEC does not have authority from Congress to regulate crypto exchanges. And, you see Brad Garlinghouse pushing back as well. He says for the SEC to sue Chris Larson and me personally for allegedly selling unregistered securities when their own division head deliberately created confusion about this, well, I don't have a single polite word to describe this deplorable, politically motivated overreach. And John Deaton also agrees that it was quite reckless as well. So this brings us to, if you follow my YouTube shorts or you're following me over on Twitter, at the Crypto Zombie, Warren Davidson put out the SEC Stabilization Act. Oh, follow me on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff too. I do post videos over there. Sometimes I don't post them over here, so you might be missing out on some content. All the links are below in the description. Those are my official links. Don't just Google it. There's lots of scammers out there. So this is what he said. U.S. capital markets must be protected from a tyrannical chairman, including the current one. That's why I'm introducing legislation to fix the ongoing abuse of power and ensure protection that is the best interest of the market for years to come. It's time for real reform and to fire Gary Gensler as chair of the SEC. So basically this would restructure it. Instead of Gary and 4 commissioners, you would have an executive director with six commissioners, and they would have equal say, and it wouldn't be like Gary just gets to do whatever he wants, basically, which is what's kind of going on right now. Now, Congress did say that they do have another bill proposed, but it's going to help take away the haphazard, schizophrenic ways of regulators right now, but they are saying that it could take a very long time to pass. It is a heavy lift, and we know that's how it goes in the U.S., right? These things could take years. They literally could take years, and that's unfortunate because it's a lot of wasted time. But as you will see in the opening remarks, which I'll play at the end of this video, that well, actually, I can play it right now for you. Really, basically, McHenry, he was saying that the U.S. needs to get ahead, or else, we're going to lose a lot of business, and we're going to lose a lot of opportunity to progress in this area, in this country.
Nearly 15 years since the Bitcoin white paper, an idea has become the new internet architecture, with ownership, digital identity, and value storage native to technology. Digital assets now are no longer a new technology. They're used all over the world. And America has always led technology invention, and if not invention, implementation. And today we're at risk of falling behind competitors around the globe. This hearing has been years in the making, bipartisan years in the making. Over the past several months, this committee has engaged in an unprecedented joint effort with our colleagues on the Agriculture Committee. Earlier this month, Chairman Thompson and I, along with subcommittee chairs French Hill and Dusty Johnson, released a discussion draft that would close the gaps between our securities and commodities laws and provide much-needed clarity for digital assets. We adhere to the time-tested principle of same risk, same regulation. while modernizing our regulatory framework to better match this innovative technology. In fact, requirements set out in the draft bill are much more onerous than the requirements for traditional financial intermediaries. As I've said, in all of our markups, I have an open door. This should be a bipartisan process, and I intend it to be. So please share your input. This is a draft bill. There's plenty of time for us, members, to find common ground on how we legislate here. But be advised, I intend for this committee to mark up some form of this legislation when we return from the July 4th recess. Let's start with where I know we all agree: consumer protection. The draft bill would require trading platforms to comply with strict requirements regarding the segregation of customer assets, similar to most traditional intermediaries. We also address how digital asset issuers raise capital for their projects. The U.S. has the deepest and most liquid capital markets in the world. We intend to keep that. We want to keep that strategic advantage here in the United States to the best of our ability. We know informative disclosures are critical to helping investors make informed decisions. By making disclosures fit for purpose, the draft bill will ensure issuers provide users with necessary information, including the number of tokens in circulation, the concentration of assets held by affiliates, and much, much more. Additionally, we enhance the SEC's ability to detect and punish fraudulent actors and activity. Today, traditional financial intermediaries are registered with the federal regulator. Digital asset trading platforms should be no different. The draft legislation will establish requirements for digital asset trading platforms, ensuring Americans and their assets are protected. The draft bill will provide a workable path for trading platforms to register with the SEC and/or the CFTC. It provides clarity to those assets that are offered as part of an investment contract and therefore a security. And I would submit the central part of this bill is this: a workable time frame and a workable time period for assets started as part of an investment contract to transition to a digital commodity, if the network is functional and decentralized. I think that is the central piece of this legislation that our discussion should be focused on. So let me close with this. We're at a critical moment for American dynamism. We can choose the side of financial freedom, innovation, inclusion, and American competitiveness, and important consumer protections at the same time. Or we can let this moment pass us by and surrender our leadership of the global financial system to other countries. I hope we'll choose the former.
And you've even seen, unfortunately, companies like Coinbase, like Gemini, who are currently filing for dismissal of the SEC's EARN program along with Genesis. They're pushing back as well. But also, you've seen them moving offshore, doing a lot of business overseas because they just can't do it right now here in the US, right? But here's the big issue, and if you waited all the way to the end of this, I hate to end on some doom and gloom scenario for the United States, but we also have a very big situation developing which is kind of like an advertisement for Bitcoin, the banking crisis, the devaluation of the US dollar, the fact that we chose, Biden chose to weaponize it, essentially, with these sanctions, which basically showed the world that we're kind of just a bunch of big bullies, and if we don't like what you're doing, we'll turn off your money. That's pretty much the message that we sent to the world. So they asked her, are you prepared for a situation in which China actually dumps all of their U.S. treasuries overnight? And this is what Yellen had to say.
Did a tabletop exercise, and in response to sanctions against a Chinese scenario where there would be an invasion of Taiwan, the scenario was that China, the second largest foreign creditor of U.S. treasuries, would dump that $859 billion in treasury securities. How are you working with our allies internationally and also the Federal Reserve to deal with a situation where China would dump that volume of treasury securities overnight?
So we are not engaging in specific exercises to address such a risk, but the United States, the National Security Council, is certainly concerned on an ongoing basis.
Well, Madam Secretary, I would encourage Treasury to make preparations and be on the ready.
So again, not trying to be super doom and gloom, you know, there's a lot of different situations going on right now. We're living through some crazy times, but from an actual technical Bitcoin perspective, if I, didn't know what was going on in the news, this to me is not great that we're getting below this level. And you wanted to see this golden cross that looks like it could potentially happen. But if we move to the downside, we are not going to get this flip on the EMA ribbon, which would be very, very bad. And again, we would lose this structure, and, the similarities here are very scary. Now, again, if I go to the weekly, it looks better, right? It looks much better. You're getting something similar like we did back here, and it actually looks like we're off to the races. So, again, long-term, mid-term, I think we're good. Short-term, if this uncertainty continues, it could be a little bit rough. So that's it for me today, guys. Again, if you do want to get an engrave, you can use the link below, get 10% off. If you're looking for some other solution besides Ledger to store your own keys. But ultimately, that is it for me today. Thank you for coming back to the channel. Make sure you guys get subscribed to me on all of my channels so you don't miss any update. Sometimes I do updates in other places that I'm not always on YouTube all the time. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. And if you are interested, honestly, now is a great time to educate yourself, to learn how to trade. If you do, I do have free tutorials, as always, on the channel. So stay crypto, guys. And of course, peace out.